Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're going to be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things for people in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, working with the homeless, Alzheimer's, the arts, financial literacy, if it's a major cause. Mission Fed is involved. So thrilled to have in the studio, first time they've been in, this won't be the last, our friends from Groundwork San Diego-Chollas Creek. Leslie Reynolds is the executive director. How you doing, Leslie?
Doing well. Thrilled to be here.
Finally get to meet you face to face.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Joined by your colleague, Teddy Cruz. He's co-director of UC San Diego's Center for Global Justice. Also professor of public culture and urbanization at UC San Diego, Visual Arts Department. And our senior producer is very thrilled about that because he just graduated from UC San Diego. That is Brandon Joe. How you doing there, Teddy?
I'm doing well, and thank you for inviting.
Well, I can't wait to hear all the great content we're going to share on this, such an important issue. And joined by my co-host, he's back for another episode of this, Om Cabra. He is a high school senior, and Om has a question for Leslie.
Yeah, just to start it off, what is the mission of your organization?
Thank you, Om. We are working at Groundwork San Diego-Chollas Creek at the intersection of what I would call climate, environmental, and social justice. And so we have, over the last 20 years that we've been around, brought millions of dollars to the Chollas Creek watershed communities. Chollas Creek runs north and south of the 94 and drains into San Diego Bay, and unfortunately is carrying many pollutants and problems to our bay and throughout these communities. The communities we serve are City Heights, Logan Heights, South Crest, Mountain View, Lincoln Park, and then the Encanto communities. So we work primarily in 3 sectors. We deliver climate education to about 2,000 kids a year, K through 12 students, in community empowerment through our climate resilience programming, and then we actually build blue-green infrastructure, large and small. So those are the kinds of things that we're working on, and very excited and honored to be delivering benefit to our communities.
Were you always in this space?
No, actually. I worked for the California legislature for many years as a chief of staff, and then I was a vice president at San Diego State, and just had a calling to really do something about climate justice and neglected and underserved communities. So I was very honored to be received by these communities, and it's been just a real joy to work there for the last couple of decades.
And what were you doing at San Diego State?
I was vice president for institutional relations and development, and so I was raising money and working with government, and it took its toll.
Who was the president at the time?
Tom Day.
I love it. Yeah. So I went to San Diego State and taught there as well a zillion years ago. That was when Brad Golding was the president.
Actually, Brage hired me.
There you go.
And then he left, and Tom took over.
You're right. Absolutely. Big sports fan, by the way. And I worked pretty closely with Steve Weber at the time, another great guy on that. So, Steve, talk about what you folks are doing at UC San Diego.
Yes, Teddy. Yes.
I'm sorry, Teddy.
Well, I co-direct the Center on Global Justice with political scientist Fona Foreman. It's an interdisciplinary platform that focuses on global development, global poverty, but really zeroes into our cross-border dynamics, understanding the border as a microcosm of all the injustices really that impact vulnerable people everywhere in the world. And so the emphasis has been on bioregional, very local bioregional research in collaboration with grassroots organizations like Groundwork San Diego that are doing amazing work on the ground, summoning communities to rethink their own environments in the context of local impacts of climate change. The main initiative that we advance locally is called the UC San Diego Community Stations, which are public spaces located in low-income communities on both sides of the border, where education and research is co-produced and co-developed with nonprofit organizations like Groundwork San Diego. So probably one of our most fundamental partners is Groundwork San Diego, to advance a variety of bio-regional initiatives at the scale of community and neighborhood.
You know, we talked about it before the show started. Talk about some of the groups that you work with across the border. Border Coalition, you work with Mario Lopez's group and some other folks down there?
Yes, I mean, obviously, Leslie Reynolds historically has always reflected that climate change demands new cross-sectorial collaborations and synergies and new intersections across areas of knowledge that continue to be divided, climate science, urban ecological design, community participation, and really the core responsibility of sectors to really tackle the projects, the impacts of climate change together. So in Tijuana is pretty much the same, a cross-sector set of collaborations, but primarily the grassroots. We are, in fact, one of the community stations in Tijuana has become the largest migrant shelter in the entire U.S.-Mexico border region. And so we're very interested in the research of climate forced migration, which in years to come will impact not only Tijuana, but San Diego as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that's near and dear to both your hearts, and that's that grassroots aspect of it. And it has to start with the grassroots and grow from the grassroots. Yes, and in the world you were in politics, that is very important to get our congressmen and women engaged in that, doesn't matter what side of the border they're in. Obviously, they can make some funds and all that happen, but if it's not going to be a groundswell from the people who actually live in those areas, that's a tough nut. Talk about how important that is. Listening.
Well, we have brought almost $20 million to these communities, and all of it is because of the strength of an involvement and engagement by our community leaders. They are central to everything we do, and their lived conditions must be exactly what is informing investments in their neighborhoods. They design solutions, they report on the problems and challenges, and through a number of training programs that we have, they're now front and center in front of our legislators, advocating for the investments that they have so long deserved, and advocating also for, I would say, the non-siloing of government departments. They need comprehensive, integrated solutions that really reflect, as Teddy was saying, what we need to do for climate change.
And are we moving in the right direction?
I think absolutely, in terms of the investments we're now seeing in our watershed, despite, disappearing funds from other places. The state of California has just passed Prop 4 funding. We are building a $10 million blue-green dechannelization water quality flood abatement project that is funded in part by philanthropy and in part by the state of California. So again, I think it is these well-informed, passionate voices of our community that are really driving the change.
Right. We're chatting with Leslie Reynolds. She is the Executive Director of Groundwork San Diego-Chollas Creek, joined by Teddy Cruz, Co-Director of UC San Diego Center for Global Justice. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, joined by my co-host, Om Cabra. He is a high school senior and has co-hosted our Spotlight show before. Teddy, talk a little bit about EarthLab. What's that about?
Very interesting. To get to the point, I can say it's a unique project that really transforms a vacant parcel, 4 acres, owned by the Unified School District, San Diego Unified, given to Groundwork San Diego, to transform it into an open-air climate action park that is equipped with green infrastructures, eco-technologies, natural habitats that can be reproduced across the neighborhoods surrounding the watershed. And it is connected or is organized around a new approach to experiential, hands-on climate education that we are also co-designing with Groundwork San Diego and an interdisciplinary team, really.
Right, and is it focused in that Chollas Creek area and the schools in there, southeast San Diego?
What is interesting is that the EarthLab as a climate action park is surrounded by 6 public schools, elementary, middle, high school. So it serves as an extended open-air classroom for environmental education. We believe, and I think primarily Groundwork in its mission, that environmental, ecological education is a good point of entry to restitch our social bonds and hopefully educate the next generation of civic thinkers.
Well, I got to tell you, I almost got a question for you in a couple seconds here, but I always talk about, I think I'm maybe shifting my view a little bit, not much, the arts is a connector because everyone can speak the language of music and art and painting and dance and everything in between. But ecology and climate is also something we all want and we all need. And you talk about bringing people together in that aspect of it, what you're just talking about. Doesn't make a difference what phase of life you come from, where you were raised, what you look like, and all that business. This is it. And especially in San Diego, we talk about this quite a bit. I love when we have some of the environmental groups on the show, whether it's conservancies and all that business. San Diego, and I'm preaching to the congregation. You guys know this better than anybody. The most biodiverse area, in the solar system. For God's sake, it seems that way. Once you lose it, it's not coming back. So I think that's great, especially when you get these kids more interested in that, are interested from the get-go on this. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how is this park going to be with it? Is it going to be kind of like Balboa Park, or is it going to be something different?
It is different from the standpoint that is not only for recreation or, how would I call it, obviously Balboa Park is a large, first of all, area. The difference is that it's intentionally injected, how would I call it, activated by education, by climate education, understanding the outdoor environmental sites to be the backdrop to perform that education. Wow. So we believe that public space can be a site to construct knowledge and to build up a new citizenship culture. So it is different from that standpoint. It's really a beautiful story of linking the physical with the social. And furthermore, it actually enables kids from the schools to go beyond their classrooms and really engage their own neighborhood. Mm-hmm. The climate education model that we are advancing with Groundwork San Diego is what we call place-based or grounded in place, so that urban youth can really look at the experience, the impacts of the local impacts of climate change, and that recognition ignites action.
Wow. Yeah, and Leslie, you've been pretty pleased with the work with the schools and the collaboration with the schools and the parents in the neighborhood?
Absolutely. We are really fully subscribed by parents and other community members at our first Saturday of the month EarthLab Volunteer Days, and any listeners are welcome to reach out through our website and participate in those. And our partnership with San Diego Unified could not be stronger. Teddy and I, UCSD and Groundwork, are now embarking on a Green Schoolyards initiative in full partnership with San Diego Unified, and we have selected an EarthLab adjacent school for a pilot to test out new green schoolyard designs, technologies, and so on. So, yeah, the partnership with San Diego Unified is fantastic.
Well, and when you think what you folks are doing, and this can be replicated, certainly in other parts of this county, to say the least, and whether it's up in San Diego or it's down in Chula Vista, where there's so many different areas that are going to benefit from the concept of what you're talking about. And I think, anyone who, this is an apolitical show, it's been that way for 20 years, but I will say this, anyone who doesn't believe in climate change, needs to take a one-way trip out of our solar system, to be honest with you. And we know that. And I think, starting young with these kids, is just absolutely so. And what is going to happen, of course, they're going to be the advocates, and we all know that. That's what you folks are setting up. That when we come back from break, I want to talk more about the collaboration between Teddy, what you're doing with Groundwork and this aspect of it. Where do we need to go? Okay, with this, our audience is always very much attuned to big community issues and all that. So be thinking about what we can do for Groundwork, what we can do for your work when we return with Teddy Cruz, co-director of UC San Diego Center for Global Justice, joined by his colleague Leslie Reynolds, executive director of Groundwork, San Diego-Chollas Creek. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. We'll be right back after this very short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We've been doing this now for 20 years, longest running community podcast in the nation. So pleased to have in the studio with us today our friends from Groundwork, San Diego-Chollas Creek, Leslie Reynolds, executive director, joined by her colleague Teddy Cruz, co-director of UC San Diego Center for Global Justice, joined by my co-host Om Cabra. He is a high school senior in this. Om, do you have a question?
No, I'm just wondering, what got you into this whole environmental design thing?
I think in the end, I'm an architect in terms of my education, and I teach in a visual arts department, so I've always been interested in the interface of art and architecture, and obviously the city, and new approaches to not only economic, but community-based development that is grounded in an ecological thinking. So urban ecology is an important topic today. At the end of the day, what prompted this is really meeting people working in the front lines of the climate crisis, like Leslie and her team at Groundwork San Diego, and understanding that sense of urgency really pushes us to rethink our own cliches, our own approaches and procedures, and to really engage these issues head on. So it's a sense of urgency that really mobilized us to really look at ecology as the framework to reorganize everything.
Wow.
So, let me ask you this. During your schoolwork, you'll be graduating next August and all this. Do you folks and does your school, do your colleagues talk much about climate change, the impact that we're doing every single day when we're not paying attention to it?
So, I definitely... So, as a school, there's a 1-year trip where you go down to Fiji. It's kind of like an outreach for some of the high school students where you go to different countries and you clear up pollutants, you help low-ending communities. And I think for me, I always try to get as much community service and I try to support my community as best as possible, especially with pollution. I went to Fiji last year and I cleaned up trash all over Fiji, and that was it's so fulfilling. I mean, doing all that work, especially as I plan to be doing that my whole life. Because, again, you said we have only one Earth, and might as well keep it all done.
Well, and when it's gone, and that's it. And I think, Leslie, I'm fascinated by climate-safe neighborhoods. Okay, talk about that.
It is, a community-driven initiative through which we bring training dollars to resident leaders and also our green team and some of our older youth, such that they can begin to understand the typologies and designs, environmental designs and so on, that will really begin to improve the watershed, their neighborhoods, and their resilience as it relates to the coming climate challenges. So they actually go out and identify spots in their communities that are the most challenged with air pollution, heat, incidental or egregious flooding, and so on. And they work with some of Teddy's colleagues at UCSD to identify technologies and solutions to those. And then, as I said earlier, they go to their legislators, elected officials, and so on, and seek the investments that they deserve. So it is the power behind really most of the work that we do.
Both you folks in your DNA, probably from birth, are data-driven folks, obviously, and you love data. So my question, I'll start with you on this, Teddy, and then, move it over to Leslie. What are you going to say that we are on the right track? Because the data is showing when we are implementing these things. Some might take a little bit while, longitudinal studies down the road or whatever, but is there some data that says, yes, we are doing this the right way? We know it from a scientific standpoint, but is there some results? We've cleaned up some of the, the pollutants in the air or in the water or in the ground or whatever. Talk about that.
Yes, in reality, it's true, and data is a fundamental layer for all of this. And I never thought, to say this, but of course, truth is what really should guide us into the next period. But at the same time, while we have all information available to us, yet we continue to vote against our own interests. And often,
we're humans.
Often I think, what can really change hearts and minds? What can really enable us to, as a community, to understand the priorities we must tackle? Because the survival of the individual depends on the health of the collective. So often data might not be enough. It is super important, and that's the reason there is where arts comes in. Arts to really enable new tools for summoning communities, for civic participation, and the climate-safe neighborhoods really is all about that. It's about visual literacy. It's about data literacy, to have new points of access for youth to understand the impacts, and to walk the neighborhood. Walking as a political practice, imagine that. Recognition, drawing, constructing models, and through that making, a new sensibility emerges.
Well, there's no question. When we talk to a lot of the environmental groups, and there are so many wonderful ones in our county, as we all know that, and I'm sure you work with a bunch of them. And when they do these walkabouts, and then whether they're going out, and boy, I haven't even realized this is in my neighborhood, for God's sake. I live near Los Penasquitos Canyon, and that is, itself, pretty cool when it comes to, all the different animals and the flora and the fauna and everything in between. And of course, talk a little bit about, maybe I'm a little sensitive to it. We've had 3 fires in my canyon recently in this aspect. How does the work that you deal with, does it deal with fire safety? Does it deal with, obviously climate change is all about. We know these new fires that are coming in the recent years are certainly impacted by what we've been doing to our climate.
Absolutely. We're leading an initiative in 3 of our canyons in southeastern San Diego with funding from Resources Legacy Fund to bring our youth and families into the discussion around both biodiversity and fire prevention. And that means to say that the youth and families are looking at risks, designing solutions, and those solutions are going to include non-native removal in the canyons. I would say resident-safe gardens that abut the canyons to protect them from whatever that is, the 50-yard buffer that they're supposed to have for fire. Right. And just generally an awareness, and we're also promoting fire-safe councils. So absolutely, that's a critical part of what we're doing and essential to their safety and well-being.
Right. So, Leslie, I'll start with you, pivot over to Teddy on it. What can our listeners do? Obviously, advocate for climate-safe neighborhoods. That's an understatement. Donate, volunteer, talk to your congressmen and women, all of the above, more.
Thank you, Drew. We do need all the help we can get. So I would say we look for stakeholders inside our communities and also externally to help advocate with government for the investments that we need and the residents deserve. We're always looking for philanthropic support. We have a lot of wonderful local support from Prebis, San Diego Foundation, and others, but we haven't really embarked on a robust, individual philanthropic effort yet, so we would love any help in that regard. And just generally people who would want to know what we're doing and speak up for the things that our youth and families need. So we welcome all comers, yes.
Yeah, and, Teddy, let me ask you this, and Leslie can jump on it as well. One of the things that's near and dear to, my heart personally, and I think the show, we've talked about it quite a bit offline, Leslie, about Classroom of the Future Foundation, who our focus is on careers and pathways, no matter where it wants to take you, in this area. There are a ton of great careers in the space you live in. Teddy, does it not?
Yes, obviously how to open doors to, not only higher education, but new approaches to vocational training. The green economy is really what will define the terms in the years to come, and yet I don't know why we are so suicidal, may I say. It's a strange thing to say, to really negate that. So how to energize today. In other words, the decisions that we're making today are not making sense at the federal level from the standpoint of not really acknowledging climate crisis. So how to re-energize the economy will depend on the next generation, again, of environmental thinkers that can really integrate ultimately what has been divided by the myopia of institutional fragmentation.
Yeah, well, it's true, and that's what you folks are doing when you're working with these kids, in this area, or it doesn't make a difference. Just informing them this is what's going to happen, and it's a numbers thing. I mean, listen, you can't, we continue to do this. This is what's going to happen. You're not going to refute the numbers and the actual things that are happening there. And I think with what you're doing and Groundwork is just absolutely fantastic, and the groundswell, no pun intended, will continue in this area. How do they get a hold of you, Leslie?
I think our website would be the best avenue. It's www.groundworksandiego.org, and they can certainly find our cell phones and our numbers on the website as well. So again, we'd welcome any inquiries, any support.
Right, and do you folks, in your area too, Teddy, do you look for interns, high school interns, maybe if OMA's interested in this, or college interns, or any interns?
What is wonderful about the efforts with Groundwork San Diego, again through the EarthLab and many initiatives, because we didn't have time to talk about the amazing set of projects, and that's what makes Groundwork San Diego so special, is impossibly comprehensive.
That's why Leslie's coming back.
Comprehensive, working at the scale of the watershed, the Green Schoolyard agenda, all the way to the EarthLab. But the EarthLab is home to a UCSD community station with which channels not only cutting-edge research from the university to the community and back to co-produce new climate data, for that matter, involving the community. Scientists are very interested in downscaling, getting what they call ground truthing, and the community can really participate of that. But the most beautiful thing is to link UCSD undergrads with high schools to produce a new form of civic mentorship. So faculty, students from UCSD come to the community through the EarthLab in Groundwork San Diego, and community leaders and urban youth come to UCSD to really help us reorganize our research agendas. So it's a beautiful circulatory system linking university and community. High school students are a focus, and Groundwork San Diego has a program called Green Team that really focuses on high school students to advance these types of initiatives.
So promise me that you folks will come back on sooner than later. We're going to call this Groundwork San Diego Choice Creek 1.0. Okay, and we just are, I call this the iceberg theory. We hit the 10% that you can see, there's 90% below that we haven't. So I'm going to, ask, request, beg maybe if I have to, that you folks come back on sooner than later and talk about this. The Green Team and everybody else, bring somebody else that has been advocating with it, and let's get you on before the end of the year. Deal?
Thank you so much. It's an honor, Drew, really.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you
We
all.
will love it.
Absolutely.
Consider that a done deal. We've been chatting with Leslie Reynolds, Executive Director of Groundwork, San Diego-Chollas Creek, joined by her colleague, Teddy Cruz. He is the co-director of UC San Diego Center of Global Justice. Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. I've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, or the nation's longest running community podcast. Honored to be sponsored by Mission Fed Credit Union, just phenomenal community leaders for more than 6 decades. Om, always enjoy you coming shoulder to shoulder with my co-host, and to our audience. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.